Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I've got what I would consider an epic kit unboxing to do today. This is one of those ones that I would have loved to have done when I was old enough to buy it in a store, but I wouldn't have had any money when I was old enough to buy it in a store because I would have been, what, 7, 8 years old? So this is a 1984 release from Testors of the YF-12A Interceptor, and you know the SR-71 is getting re-released in 148 now. By the way, this is a 148 scale kit, if you can't tell by the size of the box. The SR-71 has recently been re-released, and it's supposed to be a great kit. I had built a I think a 172 Testors when I was younger, but I think the whole SR-71 family and those aircraft that brought it to us, the A-12, the YF-12, they're just, I mean, they're mythic as Air Force aircraft go, and ridiculously large to build as models. Even a 172 scale, you know, for a 172 scale aircraft is huge. And the 148, well, I just couldn't resist because it would have been so big. I forgot why I actually got onto this, because of course it wasn't in my head to build this. It popped up. I want to share something if I can get it on camera. The price tag that came on this from KB Toys, and if you lived anywhere near a mall or a strip mall or anything, there's Toys R Us and then the little guy fighting him, KB Toys, usually at a discount. And look at the price from who knows how long ago. $9.99. Go look this up on eBay right now and see what it goes for. $9.99. Oh, what a day. Paid quite a bit more than $9.99 for this kit, but worth it, I believe, I hope. So this is still factory sealed, this whole thing. Now, when we do the build, we'll talk more about, you know, as I always do, the technical aspects, the history of the YA-12 and how it went from A-12 to YA-12 to SR-71 and all that stuff. But this was just a brief moment in U.S. Oh, here we go. Ready? Poking into this 1984 factory sealed kit. I like to say I supervised troops in the military that were not as old as this kit. But we'll talk about all that stuff when we do the build and we figure out, I mean, well, we'll decide if the markings are even, the decals are even usable that come with the kit. But we'll talk about what markings we're going to do and why and what they all represent. So here's the back of the box, where they actually show a Testors 148 SR-71 next to the YA-12. And there are differences that people also tend to think they're just the same airplane with, you know, maybe a different system in it. There's very distinct differences to look for in the aircraft, and we'll talk about that too. Here they've got some AIM-47, or what was then known as JR-9 missiles, which these would go on to become the AIM-54, by the way. Hughes would develop them later, take that technology when working on the Tomcat, working with Grumman, I should say, on the weapon system for the Tomcat. So, got markings there for 3 versions, 2 AIM-47s. Now this could carry 3 missiles. That's all it carried, 3 missiles. They were very large missiles, and there were 4 weapons bays, which were reconnaissance bays. 3 could carry missiles, and then 1 carried the associated electronics and systems to support those missiles. Why are you stuck there? 1 box. It's coming. It's coming out. And 2 boxes. Now remember, we're dealing with a 1984 Testors kit, and reading on the box, so all the parts made in Italy by our Italian friends Italeri. Ooh, look at this tape. This 1980s tape. Just no stick left. We're going to get to the parts. I want to take a look at the instructions first and the decals, because the decals, I mean, is factory sealed, so there shouldn't be any exposure to anything. The backing is a little bit yellowed, but I don't know how these would actually hold up in water. We'd have to do a little test. It'd be great if we could use them. That'd be super fantastic. Although I see that if you take a look, like these ejection warnings, they're a little off register with the white and the red. But National, see, the roundels look great. Yeah, the outstanding unit awards are a little off. But everything else looks pretty good. Everything else looks pretty good. The quality looks okay. The carrier film looks okay. I don't see obvious cracking when I round it. Then yeah, it looks like just these couple multicolor decals look a little off, but other ones look okay. So we'll see what options they give us in a moment. We've got this old brochure that I remember looking at over and over and over as a kid. Every time I got a Testors model kit. They changed, you know, as different kits came and gone. I remember the Hunt for Red October when that came out in 88 or 89. They had little submarine sets. This is interesting here because they have an SR-71 with the D-21 drone, but it would have been an M-21 that had to carry it, which would have been more akin to the A-12, not an SR-71, but that's, you know, whatever. So what I love about old Testors kits is that they give you history, and that as you go through the kit, they give you these technical notes about the parts you're working on to give you just a little bit more, you know, historical note at the top here. I always love that about Testors. Some helpful words tell you a little bit more about the real thing and apply to, you know, how you might model it. Let's see. Technical note, historical note, technical note, technical note. It's really nice. Now, they have, that's interesting. So you're going to build these missiles, and then you are going to attach them from within, which is an interesting way to do it, because normally when we attach armament, we're going in from the bottom. Just a different way. I'm not sure. Again, we're going to have to look at these pieces. I have no idea how complex or simple they are. I have not seen this particular kit ever. So you've got 11 sub-assemblies, 11 steps overall. I like this paint scheme where you've got, you know, it's the one from the box. You've got the metallic, the titanium, bare titanium over black. I think that looks cool. Kind of how I'm interested in finishing it. And they give you a little paint mix for titanium. 18 drops of Testors number 1127 orange. That's not Model Master, mind you. Model Master didn't exist. They're talking about that little tiny quarter-ounce bottle into a bottle of chrome silver. So that's their mix for titanium, orange into silver. We could still do that with other paints. 18 drops of orange into a quarter ounce of chrome silver makes titanium, according to them. That's interesting. Okay. And then this would be all black with some titanium parts. This is the markings for the record-setting aircraft, because before the SR-71 set some records, the YF-12 did, and this was for calibration, and so they could get the initial mark and the finishing mark right there. So these would just be standard black. And then they give you some up close. Now these obviously aren't the greatest pictures. They give you better pictures on kits now, but some detailed pictures. So Testors was pretty good with the instructions overall, I think. Let's move on to taking a look at some of the armaments. God, I am spaced out today. At some of the pieces. We're going to take a look at the pieces. We're not going to take a picture of the armaments. Sorry. So starting with our clear parts, you can see they did a nice favor for us frosting out the sections that are not transparent. So it makes it pretty easy to see what we have to mask and what we don't. There's not like a real good tangible, I mean, you can feel that a little bit, but some kits, like, you know, the canopy railing is a little bit more pronounced, but I think this will work out well for the masking. We can work with that easily. If we look there, not a lot of distortion. We're not going to see a lot inside that cockpit anyway when this is all done, but decent clear parts. We take a look at how big these AIM 47s are. Even compared to an AIM 54, they're big. Like you can tell. I mean, look, they span a whole hand. And they have the general shape of the Phoenix too, if you look. An extra set of fins. So basically the Phoenix would be about this right here. And then we've got this extra section. Just to give you an idea, there's 2 sets of fins on a Phoenix. We've got 3 sections here. So we've got our 2 missiles. I'm not sure why they didn't come with 3. So we could put 3 in the open bays like there would be. But that's what they chose to do. Very standard 1980s control panels. And they're not accurate exactly. I mean, not even a little bit to what would be in a YF-12. We could work on doing some scratch work on it, or we could just go and build it out of the box and say this is what we got. There's no decals for it, so we would just be painting, and I'm okay with either way. We could add some aftermarket decals to it if we wanted, but that's it. This is a rear fuselage piece because the YF-12 needed more directional stability, so there was a large ventral fin that would come down, kind of like the MiG-23. It would fold down for flight and fold up against the plane on the ground for landing. It's got that. A pitot tube. Here is that fin. This fin here. Ooh, whole fuselage section's going to go. This fin here, you can see it's got provisions for folding up, and that would be on the bottom. One of the most obvious visual differences is the front of the nose, whereas the SR-71 was completely, these strakes would go completely to the end of the nose, because there were infrared search and track and radar warning receivers on the nose. They were kind of cut. They were cut down. And it's a very prominent feature. You can kind of see better here. And then also in a different shaped nose, which was actually a radome. That's why it had a different shape to it. You had an absolutely massive Hughes ASG-18 fire control radar that worked with the AIM 47 Falcon missiles. So, very prominent distinguishing feature from the SR-71 is that forward section. And easy to tell it apart, one plane from another. Here we have the cutouts for the 2 missile bays. So on the other side, there'd be bays for 1 more missile and the actual electronics work that made the missile work. But look how that's like one. Here's the length that we're talking about. This is the length. I love it. I can't wait to put this thing together. And panel line wise, you got details, but nothing's engraved. It's all very faint raised panel lines. I have some great pictures from the U.S. Air Force Armaments Museum in Eglin, up close and personal with an SR-71. I need to review that and see what panels are like. Will I leave these? Will I just sand them flush, or will I actually engrave some light panel lines there? We'll see. I know there were panels in the SR-71 because there were gaps. Now I think about it, because the plane heats up so much during flight, they had to leave gaps for expansion, and the plane actually leaks fuel, like greatly leaks fuel on the ground, because of all the room they leave for expansion at altitude as it heats up. So probably have to very lightly engrave those. Seats, you know, I'm not too sure. Like I said, if I'm doing a whole out of the box build, I'll just go with it. But I might see if there's some aftermarket stuff that's a little bit more detailed, a little bit better. Cockpit tub. Okay, to be honest, I don't know what the cockpit of an SR-71 or a YF-12. That's the most important part. We're not talking about an SR-71. We're making that mistake. It's a YF-12. It has a much different back-end cockpit, especially, but also a different front-end cockpit. I do know for a fact that neither of these represents the back office. I don't know what we're calling him, a weapon systems officer, or radar intercept officer. I'm not sure what the designation was called back then for him. I assume it's kind of like a Rio, because that really was the same job that he had in this aircraft. Shock inlet for one of the engine nacelles. It must have gotten loose inside the packaging. But we have two sprues. This one has some cockpit pieces that we're going to use, but very, very similar pieces identical pieces for the engine nacelles, and then they just built other pieces around. Landing gear, wheels, main landing gear, more wheels, actuators, some of the more the smaller ventral fins that we like to see, that we're used to seeing. Landing gear doors with actually some nice detail on the landing gear doors. Engine exhausts with turkey feathers for those big J58s, and some actual burners for the J58s. Nice. And then, of course, big old fuselage bottom. And that's going to be ugly to work with, but we'll work with that. So I am really looking forward to building this. I'm not going to get to it right away because I have a lot of projects. But if you go on eBay and you see how expensive these kits are, I was able to get one at a very good deal. Certainly not $9.99, but a much better deal than what the rest of them are running for right now. So I jumped on it just to get my hands on it for now, because I wanted to lock it in and have it so that we can build it, so that we can work on it one day once I get a couple other projects off the shelf, because this is just so cool to have. I love doing these old vintage nostalgic. I guess vintage depends on your definition of vintage. Vintage for me are kits that I remember seeing growing up that I never got a chance to do, or maybe I even did get a chance to do, but I remember seeing them on shelves in stores when I was younger. And I love the ability to buy them and work on them now. This has been sitting sealed in this box since 1984, waiting for us to come along and build together. That's awesome. So what do you guys think of this? You excited to see it get done? I am. What paint scheme do you like better? You like the all flat black, or do you like this bare titanium on the top look? Because this was prototype look. They only built 3, and then they ordered 93, but then Vietnam happened right up early in 1965, and all the funding for everything changed. So they would have been in service in the all black look, but some other things happened too. Like the Soviet Union was moving to ICBMs as their preferred nuclear strike option for bombers, and would kind of negate the need for what would have been a $154 million airplane in today it would have it would, if you convert the money, you know what I mean, the value of the money, it would have cost them $154 million each in today's dollars. And that was an unheard of sum to pay for an airplane back in those days. I mean, just I mean, that's like NASA getting to the moon money, you know? So, it's a shame. But at the same time, we just didn't need it. We just didn't need this capability to match anything that the Soviets had. So what do you guys, how do you guys feel about this project? How excited are you? Would anybody be excited enough to see this built for me to push other projects off my list and get to this one early? Or who has experience, has built this, and has good words of advice? My first word of advice is never use this glue. So glad we're done with that. And here is a Model Master. So I was wrong, by the way. Here's a Model Master paint. But they didn't reference any Model Master colors. And I know that they had metallizer color then too. Didn't they? Or maybe not. I don't know. You know, see, I don't know. I would think if they had Model Master, they had metallizer. And we could have done this in metallizer colors. But none of that was called for in the paint instructions. Oh, well. All right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Let me know what you think of the kit, guys. I'm excited to get to it, and we will get to it. It's just going to take us a little bit. Got some other projects to finish up. Thanks for watching. I hope there are some of those people with the rose-colored glasses on looking at our kits from yesteryear just as excited as I am. And remember, for everybody building out there in YouTube land, keep building them. Build them well, and I'll see you in the next video real soon.